Well, 4 words, I told you so. That's the theme of the so-called naysayers who are chiming in with opinions on the struggling economy. So who is saying what? Let's bring in Bloomberg News columnist Carol Baum to find out. Good to have you here.
Good to be here, Carol.
I love what you talk about, that all these folks are talking about headwinds at this point. I mean, should we be surprised at kind of what's going on in the economy at this point?
Look, the economy came out of a deep financial crisis, which Ken Rogoff and Carmen Reinhart in their 2009 book, This Time is Different, documented are different than your normal, the Fed tightens to fight inflation. If you aggregate the data, 10 years later, the unemployment rate is still higher than where it was pre-crisis, and real home prices have not recovered. So the message is bubble avoidance. The Fed always said, well, we can't know a bubble in advance and we can dig out, and that's the risk, even though the economy is not doing well, of 0% interest rates.
What do you make of then what we heard from Ben Bernanke this week? He talked about monetary policy. I love this line. A bunch of guys have sent it to me. Monetary policy cannot be a panacea, Bernanke said this week. In terms of what we're hearing, I mean, he laid out a bunch of pessimism.
He did, but I think he's saying, our balance sheet is $2.7 trillion right now.
It is.
And the problem is that the banks are not taking the raw material that the Fed prints and making loans. And that was typical in the early 1990s, the S&L crisis.
Right.
I mean, we repeat these things, every 20 years?
Right.
So I think what he's saying is, the Fed has been done about as much as it could. I would be worried about having 0% interest rates for too long.
Because you're worried what?
Because, it's not. We know that that's not the neutral rate to keep the economy in balance, growing in perpetuity at its potential. You don't see where the next bubble's going to come, but now we're hearing a lot more about China and real estate prices and.
Right.
Well, I mean, again, their problem is they peg their currency.
So what do you make about these naysayers? The Keynesians saying that, we didn't do enough stimulus.
Yeah, the Keynesians saying we didn't do enough. It was too small, The Austrians, of course, are saying that with a period of malinvestment, that's another way of saying money is being directed toward assets that, it's only the interest rate that's directing them toward these investments. You need a period of purging, so to speak, and yet we keep trying to prop up home prices. Took 2 years. Finally, the Case-Shiller went back to the old low. What did we do? What did we achieve?
Yeah, not much. And it's funny to have Janet Yellen kind of talking about housing today, saying basically, it's pretty lousy out there. No kidding.
Right. Prices have to fall until someone, be it a speculator or a renter, says this is a good time to buy.
Got it. Carolyn, as always, great to get your thoughts.
Good to be here.
Love it.